Alright guys, Bitcoin just hit a very important level, and what will happen next will actually surprise you. Let me show you exactly what's going on. So in yesterday's video, Bitcoin was trading right at this major level that we said had a high probability of getting hit and also was a very important resistance area. And what you're going to see right here is that Bitcoin did exactly that. Price tagged the level, got rejected and moved to the downside. Now, why was this level so important? There were actually two reasons. The first one is that this was the golden pocket, the 618 to 65 pip zone of the last move down, which on retracements has a very high probability of getting hit. And the second reason, which I will show you in detail a little later, is that a full rejection at this level would have meant a break of the bullish structure that Bitcoin has been respecting for the past month. And that would have been a very bearish indication. But Bitcoin did bounce after that. And not from a random level, as it might look at first sight, but actually from another golden pocket. If we take the fib retracement and drag it from the low to the top of this last push up, what you're going to see is that this exact low lines up perfectly with the 618 to 65 pip zone. So that was the support that held. And from that bounce, Bitcoin pushed up and hit all of our major targets from the previous videos that we have been watching for a long time now. The exact levels where I said I would be firing a brand new short position. First, Bitcoin swapped this liquidity level at the recent high at around 78.3 thousand US dollars. Then it pushed even higher and not only hit the daily level at 78.6 thousand US dollars, but also tagged the second liquidity level at approximately 79.3 thousand US dollars. So all three of the major targets we have been watching got hit. And this last liquidity level nearly to the dollar. And Bitcoin is right now seeing a reaction off of that. We talked about this in the previous video. The bullish market structure that Bitcoin has been in for the past month. So let's zoom out a little. What you're going to see is that if you look from the bottom up, Bitcoin has been making only higher highs and higher lows for this entire move. A higher low right here, then a higher high, another higher low, and another higher high. And it just kept going like that all the way up. And that's exactly why this golden pocket rejection was so important. Because if Bitcoin got completely rejected there, that would have meant a lower high and eventually a lower low, which would have broken the bullish structure that has been in place for a month. But as you can see right now, Bitcoin actually made another higher low at the golden pocket and now a brand new higher high, so the bullish market structure remains intact for now. And another thing we talked about throughout the previous videos is this trend line on the log scale. We said this has been a very important resistance for Bitcoin, and what you're going to see right here is that Bitcoin has now broken above it and is currently trading above this trend line. So that is definitely some kind of a bullish sign for Bitcoin and another level to keep an eye on in case Bitcoin gets rejected around this area. Now yes, as I said, Bitcoin did just hit some major targets and could definitely see a rejection here. And that is exactly why I said I would be shorting these levels. But as you know, a resistance can also turn into a support once it gets broken. And let me show you something interesting right here. If we take the fixed range volume profile and extend it across this range, what you're going to see is that the value area high lines up almost perfectly with the log scale trend line that Bitcoin just broke above. So we now have two important levels stacking up at the same area, the value area high and the trend line. So this whole area is potentially a very important support zone for Bitcoin moving forward if it gets rejected here at this area. And before I continue with the bearish side of things and where I'm looking to take profits on my short, I would really appreciate it if you guys are finding this helpful to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Alright, let's get back to the video. Now look at what's forming right here at these major resistance levels where Bitcoin is trading right now. If we pull up the RSI on the 4-hour time frame, what you're going to see is a higher highs on Bitcoin but a lower high on the RSI. And that is of course a bearish divergence and a bearish sign for Bitcoin. And if we zoom out a little more to the 12-hour time frame and pull up the MACD, what you're going to see is lower highs on the MACD while Bitcoin is making higher highs. That is another bearish divergence. And on the same time frame, if we also look at the RSI, we are actually getting a potential bearish divergence there as well. So we have bearish divergences showing up on multiple time frames and multiple indicators all happening right at this major resistance area. So definitely Bitcoin could see a stronger rejection around these levels. And there's one more very important thing I want to show you. If we zoom out a little, what you're going to see is that since February, Bitcoin has been trading in some kind of an ascending channel. And if we connect the tops, Bitcoin is right now trading very close to the top of that channel. And if you look at the previous times, price tagged this upper trend line, it actually got rejected to the downside. So that is definitely a potential bearish indication. And it also means that this breakout above the log scale trend line we talked about could actually be a fake out. I'm not saying that's the case right now, but it is something to keep in mind. If Bitcoin does get rejected at this area, and then loses the support at the trend line and the value area high that we just talked about, that would definitely be a very bearish indication. And if that happens, we might be looking at much lower targets from here. Now, as for the targets of the short position at these levels, the first take profit is of course going to be that trend line and value area high confluence we just talked about. Because remember, resistance can turn into support once it gets broken, and that whole area is a very important level for Bitcoin. So it does make a lot of sense to take some profits off the table when price gets there. But if this whole move actually turns out to be a fake out, then even better for the short, because the profits are only going to get bigger from there. We don't know that yet, but de-risking at that level makes sense either way, because if Bitcoin does find support at that trend line and the value area high, the bullish structure that we previously talked about could very well continue, and we might actually be looking at higher targets from there. So that's where we are. Bitcoin hit every one of our targets, and I said I'll short right here at the resistance with bearish divergences stacking up, with the first take profit at the trend line and the value area high confluence. As always, this is not financial advice, and manage your risk. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.